and welcome to our channel, and happy 4th of July. I'm Jennifer and this is Kate, and today we're celebrating 1 full year on YouTube.
So it's crazy to think that a year ago today we posted our first video. But in honor of that, we wanted to take a look at some other Catholic mom and daughter duos, except that these famous pairs are all saints.
Yeah, so you might not have noticed this, but Kate and I, not saints, no. But it's nice to know that there are saintly pairs out there. So today we wanted to share a couple of fun facts about each and also why we think they're special.
So let's get started.
So our first dynamic duo is, of course, the Blessed Mother and Saint Anne. We love the Blessed Mother here so much, but we also love Saint Anne because who doesn't love Grandma?
And grandmothers always spoil their grandchildren and go all out for them, and Saint Anne in our experience is no different. And there's honestly so much you could say about these two that it's hard to even decide where to start.
It is really hard, but one of the things that I have always loved about the Blessed Mother is that I think she has been busier in heaven than she ever was on earth. You know how really busy people say things like, oh, I'll rest when I'm dead? Well, not the Blessed Mother.
Since 40 AD, there have been thousands of reported sightings of her from all over the world. Our favorite is probably the apparition in Lourdes, and we made a whole video about that, so we'll link it down below. But aside from healings, she has had a hand in so many other things, like converting entire nations and winning military battles.
So she definitely gets the super mom title, but her mother, Saint Anne, the Heavenly Grandma, is no less amazing. And one of the things I find really interesting about Saint Anne is that pretty much everything that we know about her comes from outside the Bible. We get our information about Saint Anne from the Apocrypha, or the non-canonical writings.
Saint Anne is the patron saint of many causes, including laborers, mothers, educators, horseback riders, interestingly enough, and also unmarried women.
So if you are an unmarried woman and you're looking for a husband, look no further than Saint Anne. We are going to share with you today the unfailing prayer of Saint Anne for a good husband.
So we first heard about this prayer from a church friend who married later in her life, and she says she got it from her Aunt Judy, and it must have worked because she has been happily married for several years now.
Okay, so the prayer goes like this. Saint Anne, send me a man. So it's really hard to say that without laughing, but it's a true story, and this prayer apparently works because if you think about it, who did Saint Anne find to marry her own daughter? Saint Joseph. So if you need a good and faithful husband, you can't go wrong in turning to Saint Anne to be your heavenly matchmaker. Our second famous mother-daughter pair is St. Bridget of Sweden and her daughter, St. Catherine. So they are an interesting pair who lived in the 1300s.
They're especially interesting to us because every year on New Year's Day, each member of our family picks a saint for the year. Again, we've done a video on this topic, so we'll link it down below, but St. Bridget has come up several times in just our immediate family.
Yeah, so I thought it was strange that someone in our family always got St. Bridget, but then this year on January 1st, 2021, I got St. Catherine of Sweden. And when I started reading about her, I realized, oh my goodness, her mother is St. Bridget, and that is another Catholic mom and daughter, just like we are.
And the two of them also traveled to Italy together, which is something that we got to do a couple years ago, so that's a cool connection.
So there are many really cool things about St. Bridget. One of them is that by the age of 7, she was already having mystical visions of Christ. And through her writings about that, we know that during his passion, Christ suffered over 5,000 wounds in his body.
And then later in life, Jesus gave her some other things that he wanted her to do. He asked her to go to Rome and write to the Pope, who was living in France at that point, and try to get him to come back to the Holy City. And he also asked her to encourage the Pope to help establish peace between France and England.
Then he showed her a religious habit, and he asked her to establish an order of nuns, the Order of the Most Holy Savior, or the Bridgetines. So she did everything that he wanted, including going to Rome, and that's where her daughter Catherine joined her.
And so they lived in Rome together. They use it as the base for several pilgrimages. But when all was said and done, Bridget never actually accomplished a lot of what Jesus had asked her to do. And we found an article that kind of sums this up really nicely, so I'm going to read it off to you. She never had the Pope return to Rome permanently. She never managed to make peace between France and England. She never saw any nun in the habit that Christ had shown her, and she never returned to Sweden but died, a worn-out old lady, far from home in July 1373. She can be called the patroness of failures.
The patroness of failures. Wow, that's a harsh title. But anyway, if you ever feel like you're not making much progress or you're having a bad day, you can always ask for the intercession of Saint Bridget. Although, we're still reading her writings today, and her order of nuns did flourish. So when it's all said and done, I don't think that's really much of a failure. I think she did a great job.
So St. Catherine has her own amazing story as well. She worked with her mother to help the sick and the poor in Rome, and she often helped women who had miscarried or having difficult pregnancies. So she is one of our great pro-life saints, and she helps mothers to this day.
And not only that, but she is also known as a miracle worker. There are at least 2 recorded stories of her bringing people back to life. Both were men, and one had fallen off a roof and got all crushed up and mangled, and then another one fell out of a carriage and he got run over and died. It was very messy, but all she had to do was touch these 2 men and they were instantly restored to full health.
And there is a lot more about St. Bridget and St. Catherine because they were such an amazing pair.
Yeah, Kate, I think we're really we're going to have to up our game a lot to compete with these 2 ladies. We're not even close, but still they are very inspiring for us.
So our next mother-daughter pair are St. Paula and St. Eustochium, who lived in the very early days of the church in the 300s. And there's a lot to know about these 2 ladies, but the thing we find most fascinating is that if it weren't for them, the Bible might not have been translated into Latin as soon as it was.
So you probably know that it was St. Jerome who translated the Bible from the original Greek and Hebrew into Latin, but what you might not know is that St. Paula and St. Eustochium helped him a lot in this work. They supported him financially, they encouraged him to keep going, and they also helped him by making hand copies of his work so more copies of the Bible could get out there.
St. Paula was a rich Roman widow, and she moved with her daughter to Bethlehem, where they did a lot of good works and were known for being very generous. And she used her fortune to build a convent, a monastery, and a hospital.
And so it's interesting about St. Jerome, he was a very grumpy old man. He was known for having a very, very bad temper, but Paula and Eustochium knew how to manage him. They knew how to keep him on track in his work. So he was very devoted to them, and he wrote very kind things about them in his letters. He praised their generosity and their good work, and that was a big compliment because he said and wrote very unflattering things about a lot of other people.
So Paula and Eustochium were a very busy but very inspirational mother-daughter pair, and we always try to call on them when we have to deal with someone who is unpleasant or grumpy, because if they could handle St. Jerome, they could definitely help us. So now we're on to our last pair, a mother and daughter from France. So this is St. Therese and her mother, St. Zélie. So you probably know St. Therese as Little Flower, a Carmelite nun who died young but became famous from her autobiography, The Story of a Soul.
So in that book, she talks about her little way to heaven, which is to do small things with great love. Zélie was a famous lace maker in France in the 1800s, so she was running her own business and at the same time was a wife, a devout Catholic, and the mother of 9 children.
And St. Therese was continually working all throughout her life. Before and after joining the convent, she was always praying and offering sacrifices for the saving of souls. And she is still at work up in heaven, and she famously said that after she died, she would let fall a shower of roses from heaven.
So if you have not heard this, we want to spread the word here that if you need special help from heaven, you can turn to St. Therese. You can say a prayer, a novena, 9 days of prayer to St. Therese, asking for her intercession. So how this works is you pray to her, and then she will pray for you and ask God to help you. And then if your prayer request is going to be granted by God, she will send you a special signal from heaven in the form of a rose.
So that is so cool, and many thousands of people, including us, have received roses from St. Therese. Another interesting thing about her family is that her sister, Leone, has been named a servant of God, so she is also on the path to sainthood.
So that Catholic mom hit the jackpot. She's going to have 2 daughters who are saints, so that's really cool. All right, that is our wrap-up of famous Catholic mom and daughter pairs in honor of 1 year on YouTube.
So it's been a crazy adventure. We have learned so much. But one of our favorite things has been getting to know you, our viewers. So thank you for watching and for all your encouragement and support.
We hope you have a very happy 4th of July. God bless America, and we will see you next time. Bye.